Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hey, welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We're still in the lockdown phase of the pandemic here in Portland, Oregon. Our governor has opened the rest of the state, but not Portland. It's Tuesday, the 16th as I'm recording this, 2020. And the governor decided last week to postpone it at least a week. So we don't know if it will be open next week, but sounds like it might. The rest of the state has opened into phase 2 in our locality. But also the reports are that the deaths and infections are going up. So it goes. Of course, the other huge story rocking the country are the protests over police brutality and killing of African Americans. And we support the actions on behalf of stopping police brutality to African Americans. Native Americans also are subjected at an even higher rate than African Americans are to police brutality. Per capita, significantly more Native Americans are arrested and murdered. Separate categories. More Native Americans per capita are arrested, more Native Americans per capita are murdered by the police than any other group. But of course, African Americans have also always been subject to persecution here. You know, most of my ancestry is European refugees from way back when, you know. But one thing I think is that I don't really like defining people by color, skin color, any more than eye color or hair color. Most of the European refugees who came here imposed racism, and we're still living with the effects of that. But hopefully we can continue to lessen that, and hopefully we'll see some change in the political structure. I definitely approve lowering and demobilizing the police. The war on drugs has ratcheted up the police over these years, and we need to ratchet that back down. We have more people incarcerated in the United States than any other country in the history of the world. So we need to reorganize our entire criminal justice system and demobilize the police, take them off of war footing. That doesn't mean, you know, no police department. I think we need more people who aren't armed, whether for traffic violations, for mental health care, domestic situations. We shouldn't be sending in armed people into those situations, I think. And we need a massive reallocation of our government. And I think we need to expand natural individual rights. That's something we all can agree on, that we all should have more of a right to privacy, ownership of our own data, our own DNA. These are things I'll continue to work for. And I'm going to come on. We're going to now have the Hemp News segment, starting with a story from down south in Louisiana. The Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards has signed a series of bills into law, greatly expanding medical marijuana patients' ability to access medical cannabis products. Late last week, the governor signed House Bill 819, which expands the discretion of physicians so that they can recommend cannabis therapy for any condition that he or she considers debilitating to an individual patient and is qualified through his or her medical education and training to treat. Under the current law, doctors may only recommend medical cannabis products to those patients with a limited number of select conditions such as HIV and cancer. The new law takes effect on August 1st, 2020 in Louisiana. At that time, Louisiana will join a handful of other states, including California, where it's been that way since 1997, Maine and Virginia, that have enacted similar measures providing physicians with the ability to recommend medical cannabis preparations to any patient who they believe may benefit from them. Louisiana's governor also signed into law 2 additional measures House Bill 418, which provides immunity from prosecution to, quote, any facility that is licensed by the Louisiana Department of Health that has patients in its care using medical marijuana, end quote. And House Bill 2011, which encourages banks and other financial institutions to provide services to state licensed medical cannabis businesses. House Bill 418 and 211 also take effect on August 1st, 2020. Louisiana's lawmakers enacted a limited medical cannabis access law in 2016. However, the program did not become operational until August of last year. Currently, fewer than 4,000 patients are registered to access medical cannabis products in the state of Louisiana. Moving to the Rockies, legislation before Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis provides the governor's office with expanded powers to pardon those with past marijuana convictions. Language in Colorado's House Bill 1424, which seeks to facilitate greater diversity and social equity within the retail cannabis industry, permits the office of the governor to grant pardons to a class of defendants who were convicted of the possession of up to 2 ounces of marijuana without an application and without seeking the comment of the district attorney and judges for those cases. While Colorado's governor's office already possessed the authority to issue pardons in certain circumstances, this measure expands those powers so the governor can do so unilaterally for persons with minor marijuana convictions. Legislation in Colorado's House Bill 1266, previously enacted by the state legislature in 2017, permits those with misdemeanor cannabis convictions to petition the court to have their records sealed. Other provisions of the pending Colorado legislation would remove the prohibition on those with past felony convictions for marijuana-related activities from seeking industry licenses, among other changes to facilitate greater social equity within the retail cannabis space. Colorado's Governor Polis's press secretary had previously gone on the record to say that, quote, the administration is supportive of this bill and looks forward to seeing it pass, end quote. Out in the islands of Hawaii, Maui County's Mayor Michael Victorino proclaimed June 14th as Medical Cannabis Day in the county of Maui, the island of Maui, commemorating the 20th anniversary of Hawaii becoming the first state to pass medical cannabis reforms via the legislative process. Victorino made the announcement on June 13th at Maui Grown Therapies, the first licensed dispensary in Kahului on Maui. Hawaii's medical marijuana law was signed by then Governor Ben Sayatano on June 14th, the year 2000. Maui's Grown Therapies was also the first dispensary in Hawaii to sell to a patient on August 8th of 2017. Mayor Victorino said during the announcement, medical cannabis dispensaries weren't legalized in Hawaii until 2015 and previously relied on caregivers to supply medicine to patients. There are some 6,000 patients, medical cannabis patients, on the island of Maui, in Maui County. Our next story is from Oklahoma. Retail sales of medical cannabis has increased month over month in Oklahoma in 2020 and now total nearly $300 million for the year, according to data provided by the State Tax Commission and the Medical Marijuana Authority. So $300 million in tax revenue to the state of, in total gross revenue to the state of Oklahoma till this time, at the end of May, I suppose. Sales of medical cannabis products in May were estimated to be $74 million, the highest monthly total ever recorded in Oklahoma. Total sales year to date have thus far been just over $275 million. Nearly 300,000 patients registered with Oklahoma officials to access medical cannabis products. Oklahoma has the highest number of medical marijuana patients per capita of any other state. They don't, of course, have recreational or adult use cannabis there, so it's all medical there. Our next story is out of Ohio. The daily administration of commercially available hemp-derived CBD oil extract is associated with improved HDL cholesterol levels, according to data published in the Journal of Dietary Supplements. Investigators affiliated with the Center of Applied Health Sciences in Ohio and Linwood University in Missouri assessed the health effects of a commercially available hemp extract versus placebo in 65 overweight but otherwise healthy participants. The extracts contained 15 milligrams of CBD. The participants consumed either the extract or a placebo daily for a period of 6 weeks. The researchers reported that those taking CBD experienced improved HDL, or high-density lipoprotein, or in other words, the good cholesterol, levels compared to controls. The subjects consuming the extract also acknowledged improvements in sleep and an overall improvement in their quality of life. No significant adverse effects were reported. The authors concluded, quote, overall, these findings suggest that supplementation with this hemp extract at the provided dosage in the men and women studied exhibited improvements in HDL cholesterol, tended to support psychometric measures of perceived sleep quality and stress response, perceived life pleasure, and is well tolerated in healthy human subjects, end quote. Several observational studies have previously identified an association between cannabis use and elevated HDL levels, along with other decreased metabolic risk factors. The full text of this study, the effects of hemp extract on markers of wellness, stress, resilience, recovery, and clinical biomarkers of safety in overweight but otherwise healthy subjects, appears in the current issue of the Journal of Dietary Supplements. And our last story tonight is out of Israel. The use of medical cannabis mitigates symptoms and reduces the need for prescription medications among elderly nursing home patients, according to a study published in the journal Advances in Health and Behavior. Israeli investigators assessed the impact of medical cannabis consumption on symptom management and prescription drug use in a cohort of 19 elderly patients over a one-year period. The participants in the study were enrolled in Israel's federal marijuana access program and were able to choose from 4 select strains of cannabis. All of the study's subjects were dependent on nursing home care. The researchers reported, quote, all patients experienced immediate relief from medical cannabis usage, end quote. These effects included reduced pain, increased appetite, better mood, improved sleep, and dramatic improvements in symptoms of spasticity. The authors further reported that cannabis therapy was associated with a reduction in subjects' use of prescription medications, a finding that's consistent with many prior studies. Overall, participants discontinued taking a total of 39 different prescription medicines during the study period. Patients were most likely to eliminate their use of opioids, anxiolytics, and antidepressants after initiating cannabis therapy. The authors concluded, quote, we found an overall improvement in the patients, including of their symptoms and medical conditions, cessation or reduction of traditional drug usage, and a general improvement in life quality. Overall, 39 dosages of prescription drugs were canceled for the 19 elderly individuals included in this research, indicating that medical cannabis can be an effective treatment that also reduces environmental drug load, end quote. This study, will medical cannabis treatment reduce pharmaceutical residues in the aquatic environment? A case study from an elderly nursing home appears in Advances in Health and Behavior. That's the end of our Hemp News segment for this week. We have some additional videos here, and we'll hope to get back into our studio sometime, but for the time being, we will continue producing our show through whatever means are necessary. Again, we support the movement for racial equality and justice and against police brutality. I think it's time to demobilize the police. We don't need the war on drugs anymore. We need to refund education and conflict resolution and social workers instead of police officers to deal with many of these things, is my opinion. Since I have a TV show, I get to express it here. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week and help us restore hemp.
This is not a war on drugs. This is a war on my kids that need medical marijuana to make their day pleasant, to help them relieve the symptoms of nausea, to get over the symptoms of chemotherapy, to make them feel good each day they get up in the morning. That's what this war is about. Turn on all your friends, all your relatives, all your grandmas and grandpas. Tell them that this war on marijuana is bullshit.
Welcome to the Buyers Club. We've got today all kinds of food goods. All the food is $5 a piece. Those are peanut butter cookies. These are chocolate chip cookies. Banana bread, made by my partner.
3 of them.
Rice Krispies, made by Larry, who also works here at the Buyers Club.
I'm sorry. Right.
And
so 3.
cooking marijuana, cooking leaf. This is so this way you can cook these things at home for yourself and be able to make your own. And tincture, it's marijuana made blended in vodka, and you just take a few drops of that.
Right now.
And we also have marijuana that you can smoke. On the side. And depending upon the quality of it, determines the price. So of course, this being the most potent, this would be the most, this is the most expensive one with the sliding scale. The 2 here are California green, and these 2 to the left are Mexican.
And
20, and this is 40. This is 65 and 75. 75 is very, very pungent, very aromatic.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Buyers Club and how it came into being. My best friend, my water brother of 14 years, Jonathan West, had AIDS. Jonathan was taking a myriad of drugs, like every AIDS patient, and all those drugs have severe side effects, from constant nausea to appetite suppressant and to making you feel really bad. The one drug that was really helping Jonathan was marijuana. It was the one drug that allowed him to ease his nausea, to stimulate his appetite. Yes, and it was the one drug that made him feel a little bit better. When Jonathan died, me and my friends collected 16,000 signatures to put a medical marijuana initiative on the ballot. And the people of San Francisco responded by 80% to legalize marijuana as a medicine to help people with AIDS and cancer and multiple sclerosis. The Board of Supervisors, in a resolution 741-92, ordered the district attorney and the chief of police to place the marijuana enforcement laws for medical purposes as to be their lowest priority. Marijuana, although it is illegal, helps people. I'm working to legalize it for these people. And one only has to spend one day at the Buyers Club to know that this is a medicine that works for a lot of people.
My kids turned me on when I was in my late 40s, I think. I'm 75 now.
Yeah.
But I didn't used to smoke it regularly. I just smoked it when they were around and we celebrated, you know. But I was diagnosed with glaucoma a year ago, April, and I'd been told for years that it would help the pressure of glaucoma. You know, you go blind with glaucoma. But I went to my ophthalmologist expecting him to be able to write out a prescription, and I found out that it was illegal. I hadn't paid all that much attention to it before, you know. I sort of knew it was illegal. Anyway, then I started writing letters to officials and one thing and another. Wrote a letter to Angela Aliotto, who is the president of San Francisco Board of Supervisors. And I told her, well, I had heard that her husband, who had had cancer and had used marijuana to help him through his death. And anyway, I wrote her a letter about what was on my mind, and she wrote me back and told me to call Dennis. Never even heard of Dennis before. And this was maybe in last January. So I called him, and Dennis invited me up, and having glaucoma is an in for me. You know, we all are, who are members here are sick.
You have to have a letter of diagnosis from your doctor: HIV, cancer, multiple sclerosis, serious back injuries, paralyzed, disc injuries, essentially anything that marijuana is good for. If you have the anorexia, marijuana would work. And for pain management, marijuana works. And if you're extremely depressed, instead of Prozac, marijuana does work.
I use marijuana because it helps me relax. I was in a really bad car crash in 1987, and my neck and shoulder was injured, and they go into spasm sometimes, and it gives me terrible headaches. So if I smoke some marijuana, it helps all those muscles stay relaxed, and I don't get headaches, and I can avoid it and prevent them rather than wait until it gets really bad.
I have an HIV-related kind of arthritis of the spine. It's called Reiter's syndrome, and it helps with my pain. It helps me sleep and keep up my appetite.
Alleviates nausea, helps calm me down. It relaxes me and it helps me control, just kind of manipulate stress instead of letting stress manipulate me. It helps me be more calm, and calm, it makes me laugh, you know. It makes me look at the life in a perspective, perhaps.
Well, basically I'm here because three different reasons. I can get pot better quality, consistently, and cheaper here than I can on the street, which is more of a practical reason. But in terms of the medical reason, is the fact that I've got something called drusen's on the optic nerve. It's basically sort of wart-like excrescences on my eyes, on my retinal membrane. And what it does, it is decreasing my field of vision as well as increasing the pressure in my eyes, and also produces a lack of binocular focus. When I smoke pot, it helps reduce the pressure and brings back my binocular focus so I can see someone. Still can't see completely, but I can see a lot better after I've smoked a joint than I could beforehand. So that's why I'm here.
Basically, to restore appetite that medication takes away, to make sleep easier as a corrective against insomnia. For spiritual reasons, I acknowledge the need in all human beings to get high, to remove themselves temporarily out of an everyday frame of mind for another frame of mind when that's, you might say, somewhat exalted over the everyday.
Thank you.
It gives me a great deal of relaxation. I'm in a serious depressed state. I have MS, and it's hard to believe that 7 or 8 years ago I was able to ride my bicycle from here to Santa Cruz. This place is really great to get marijuana from, because for one thing, you don't have to take your chances out on the street, like going to Dolores Park, for example, where you're never quite sure what quality you're getting, or if you're going to be robbed, or it's just dangerous. This is a safe place, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Reality is, the medical marijuana clubs have operated without interference from local police or federal drug agents.
Our manpower doesn't permit to really operate at the street level.
So it is a low priority right now?
Yes, it would be.
Mm-hmm. I really think the individuals involved with that program are very sincere, and they're trying to do something to alleviate their pain, versus other methods. And I think it's something that the justice system has not responded to that particular social need yet.
He wants some more.
I got involved with Shanti to begin with when the epidemic first broke, And from there, I went to San Francisco General Hospital in the AIDS outpatient ward. I've been there, I call them all my kids because any one of them could have been. They could have been yours, they could have been anybody in this room. And so I was baking at a safe house. I was baking for about 20 or 25 kids. Whenever I could get enough leaf donated, I would bake as many brownies as I could for the leaf that was donated, and I would deliver them to kids with AIDS free of charge. And then, of course, I got busted, and that seemed to be the shot heard around the world for medical marijuana. They wish they'd never, ever busted me. My kid was selling a little marijuana on the side to for a little extra income, and they were basically after him, and I was up there baking that day, and they got me too, and thought yay, they said, guess who we've got here, Brownie Mary, and they thought that was a big deal. However, it really backfired on them. The book is basically Dennis's and all the other people that made contributions to it. My contribution was just the recipes and the story of my activism. There's all kinds of good recipes in the book. There's a great shrimp casserole, there's a rice side dish, there's a black bean soup, macaroni and cheese, hemp salad dressing, chestnut stuffing. There's a good recipe for chocolate chips, and so we all did this book and put it together, and we've sold almost 5,000 copies. We're just about out and going into the second edition.
Okay. It is good.
Right now we have 22 people working here, from the bakers to scale people to doormen and to people that just roll joints for the people. And everyone that works here has either got AIDS, cancer, or multiple sclerosis. We hire from the community to serve the community.
Do you have any screens for this?
I'm the baker. I make the cookies. Yeah, there are several ways of doing it. Like THC, the leaf is THC is dilutable in any kind of oil or butter. And there's another way of using alcohol and increasing the potency, which I'm just like experimenting with. So far, I've just like used my leaf in a crock pot with butter, let it soak overnight, and then get magnificent results from it.
So I'm just trying to find some place to go.
It's a medical marijuana brownie. It says here right on the label.
Okay.
And they don't quite have the fact statement on there yet. But the guy said it was really good, and I'm going to have one. And basically, I'm actually only going to have half of it because a whole one will make me feel sleepy, too sleepy. And I'd rather do it at home, the whole thing at home. And so here goes. These aren't Mary's brownies. These are somebody else makes these. If I get a chance to get one of Mary's brownies, those are the best. The smoking, it gives me that right away feeling. But this actually takes an hour and a half or so to really start to make me to feel it. I have HIV.
Matter of fact, the drugs that the surgeons gave me to alleviate the pain before and after surgery are toxic, and marijuana isn't. So I became an addict of prescription drugs. I'd really never used marijuana in my life. I was 220 pounds. I had terrible pain from my surgery. I couldn't even move without pain. Now I'm 170 pounds. I bike 20 to 30 miles a day in rural Butte County without that much pain. I am in school and getting a 4.0 GPA in a very hard graduate program.
I'm 73 years old. I've been smoking pot for 60 years. I like to eat it too. I started to smoke pot. It was not considered a drug, but rather a herb. My mother used to take the stems and make cheese out of it and give it to us on honey for our menstrual pains.
works. It's, some people say that Mexican is harsher to smoke, that the taste is more irritating.
And that's really probably the key difference between green bud and Mexican pot. Is that a green bud, usually your high is a little bit longer, where in Mexican you need to smoke some more relatively soon to keep your buzz.
And a lot of people are not able to smoke it because of their lungs, because of their respiratory systems and hearts, what have you, and smoking is bad for your health. So eating it really is becoming more and more popular and more creative, you know, like these actually really caught on, these Rice Krispies, you know. These really caught on. It somehow tastes right. The taste of marijuana is odd. It doesn't go with everything. Nothing tops homemade. And like this is an ounce of marijuana, and it's the shake and the leaf from the flowers that this is. But this is enough pot. We sell this for what, $15? Enough pot to make a batch of brownies, about 12 doses. Homemade is really good because when you first take it out of the oven and it's hot, it is heated, and it's like slightly smoldering, you know, there in its little baked form, and very, very potent. So a batch of brownies, when you take those brownies out and you eat one of those brownies, that's like way more than enough. Mostly, if I'm going to eat it, I probably would eat it in a cookie form, usually brownie. Or sometimes I might make something special like pancakes, but usually I smoke it. I prefer to smoke it.
He don't care, does he? He's not picky. He's not picky. Here, keep going. No, not this one. You're hungry, aren't you? Here you go. There's your little.
Right. Oh, you don't want to be?
Yeah. We're like, oh wow. How much of this would you say?
To get, I think, to effectively, you're going to have to eat the whole thing.
Oh, is it like a lot weaker than?
Well, it's 2 grams in there, so I don't know. You know,
well, what's in the banana bread? 2 grams.
2.5.
2.5. Okay, because like I must have had like the smallest piece. It wasn't even a quarter of a piece, and I was just like, ooh, and I gave that much to my mom, and she was just like, she passed it out. Really.
Well, you know, like I'm probably going to use more than you.
Yeah, exactly. So you think maybe half, or I just don't, you know, like she's like a hardcore.
We'll start off with your smallest amount, you know, give her like a quarter of it.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, then you give her another quarter.
Okay, actually.
The Cannabis Buyers Club here. Everything here has medicinal value. Everything here is available to the members. It's calculated by weight, and the same way we buy it. And as you can see, we have a chart. And how much is everything?
Stems in this. Different grades. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's a high art, as a matter of fact, of growing of marijuana. Some of these are beautifully tendered and manicured. You can tell people really put a lot of energy into their gardens. They're really, it's a little bit less quality because the flowers, they've crumbled and dried differently.
I was diagnosed in April of, well, I was HIV positive in April of '89, and I was diagnosed with AIDS May of last year. And I've gained approximately 15 pounds in 6 weeks. So it's very good for me, because I was down, I lost almost 20 pounds.
Hey, my name is Beth, and I work here. I do a variety of things, greeting people, signing them up, giving them hugs, helping them at the counter, showing them around. I am HIV positive myself. I love that we're like a big family. The people that come in here, when they leave, they feel just a little bit more loved and at ease than they did when they came in. I've seen people improve. I've seen people come in having to be carried up the stairs, and I've seen people come in later, these same people come in later with just walking up the stairs with maybe a little bit of help. I've seen definite improvement. I've experienced this myself. I've just seen a lot of miracles here.
One of us does. They can get 3,100 very sick people searching their parks for marijuana. They get 3,100 people in their jails. These people are at the autumn and the winter of their life. They deserve every respect society can give them. And I may have to pay a price someday, go to prison for what I'm doing. But I believe in what I'm doing. The club is open. One just has to be here one day to know that we are doing the right thing, that we are helping people in a crisis time of their life. And you can say this club is about marijuana, but it is really about love and compassion.
The organizations we run out of here would be Americans for Compassionate Use, Californians for Compassionate Use. We field calls from all over America. Every day we get calls from people out there that want information on this topic, and we've been trying in our own humble little way to influence national policy in this area as best we as a citizen activist group can do. It was passed by both houses of the California State Legislature by a nice margin. It was a bipartisan vote. Republicans in both houses passed this bill. We lobbied for this bill. I had the honor of going up there with Dennis on numerous occasions and watching some of the patients also go up there and testify for the bill. And that was quite a process. I mean, Dennis actually and some of the patients went door to door, legislator to legislator. And it was quite a thing to see, because Dennis is a master. And this was something we'd step back and generally watch. He really had to see this to understand the power of speech, because his voice would go up, and the infectiousness of his characteristic of what he was explaining would go up. And these offices aren't that big. Usually you've got another legislator in the back room. Next thing you know, you've got Dennis talking directly and discoursing directly with these legislators without, just pure on its own merits, and really swaying them with the conviction of argument. It was really something to see. We didn't personally get to see the governor, and we brought 30 patients by, and we presented the governor, Dennis presented the governor through his office with a major pile of materials in support of the bill. Californians for Compassionate Use is spearheading a statewide ballot initiative. The vote will take place in November of 1996. The voters of the state of California will at that point be able to decide if it's okay for a sick person to grow a couple of plants of marijuana and use it for medicine with the oversight of their physician.
Coming out here to support the Cannabis Buyers Club. And I want to tell you a little bit what's been happening at the club. For over 2 years, we have been operating without police interference, and we have served 4,000 people. We're at our door on Wednesday, videotaping members, following sick people home. Harassing AIDS patients and cancer patients in the sunset of their life. And that's not right, and we're here to tell them to leave us alone. The people of San Francisco are behind us. The politicians of San Francisco are behind us. Mayor George behind us. The Board of Supervisors. And in fact, the cops have sent us 3 members who have AIDS who are buying pot in Dolores Park. They sent them to the club. Even the police in San Francisco support us. No! They're not going to do it. I'm not going silently into the night. I will be dragged into that building. I am fighting for your rights, for any medicine you have in the sunset of your life. I'm here to protect you, and if they arrest me, they are arresting you. If they close these clubs, people will surely die. they have to know that because we know that. We've watched our friends and our families puke themselves to death on the modern medical miracles of today's science. And we know this herb helps them, and we're not going to let them close the club. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm also not going to let Dennis Perone go to jail alone. That's right! Rumor has it that there's a warrant in this building with Dennis Perone's name on it. And they know what they can do with their warrant. Hey, hey, DEA, Dennis Club is here to stay. Hey, hey, DEA, Dennis Club is here to stay. Hey, hey, DEA.
I started selling marijuana in 1970, and I paid a dear price for it, including getting arrested, jailed, huge jury trials. 1977, again, I was arrested for running the Big Top Pot supermarket. It was kind of the one-stop shopping. 3 scales, no waiting, treated like a king. And my friend Harvey Milk and I conspired to legalize marijuana on the 1978 ballot by Proposition W. We won that vote by 58%. And Harvey Milk, in a note to my jail cell, told me he was going to see that it was enforced and that no city funds were going to be allocated to enforce the marijuana laws. But that wasn't to be, because Harvey Milk was gunned down by an assassin's bullet. And it also put a bullet through the marijuana movement's heart, because, see, Harvey was our spokesman. Moving on to my wall, this is a poster of when I ran for charter commissioner. I ran for charter commissioner when I was in jail for selling marijuana from the pot supermarket. And Harvey Milk endorsed me for that race. I unfortunately lost, but not by much, and not before Dan White denounced me and Harvey Milk in front of the Board of Supervisors. At the same time, I had Proposition W on the ballot. I, unfortunately, was in jail for the November election, so I did see my initiative win by 58% and myself come within 1,500 votes of actually winning a seat on the Charter Commissioner. And now, my restaurant, and it was the Island Restaurant. It was in the heart of the Castro district, in Harvey Milk's headquarters for his 75 and 76 assembly race. He used my restaurant as his campaign headquarters for that race. And he didn't win that race, but that was not to be, because he was meant to win the race in 1977 when he became the first openly gay elected supervisor, elected official in the whole country. And his legacy was one of love and community. He showed the world a lot of hope and compassion.
A K2 medical alert: looking to ward off diabetes? You might try lighting up a joint. New research published in the American Journal of Medicine found a link between marijuana and blood sugar control. Weed smokers in the study had lower levels of insulin resistance. High resistance can lead to diabetes. The pot users also had smaller waistlines. That's another positive, because weight around the middle can indicate or be a precursor to diabetes. Scientists say the receptors in the brain triggered by marijuana may speed up metabolism.
We've been giving kids the message, just say no to drugs. So why would a mother convince her 12-year-old to take marijuana? Sounds outrageous, but she says it's for his own good. Is it? Here's Chris Connolly.
The minutes of 12-year-old Ryan's day are filled with emotional turbulence and self-destructive behavior, bouts of rage or panic, self-loathing and lethargy. He is living a nightmare, and so is his mother.
Judy, how old was Ryan when you started seeing this kind of behavior that troubled you?
He was 6 years old. He was in the first grade.
Judy Mendoza never imagined that her son would develop such an array of debilitating syndromes, including severe obsessive-compulsive disorder.
Open the door. He became completely incapacitated and incapable of functioning in the regular world. A couple of weeks ago, I pulled into the driveway and he came running out of the house, threw himself down on the hood of my car, said, "I want you to kill me, I want you to run me down, I don't want to live anymore, I can't take this OCD anymore."
What's it like when your son says, "I don't want to live anymore"?
It's the worst thing you could ever hear as a mother. It really is. You want to do anything you can to take your child's suffering away.
Judy says Ryan is pathologically afraid of the wind, of the number 6. Ryan was pulled out of school earlier this year and spends much of his day with an aide, playing video games, as he did with me.
Wait a minute, I'm bleeding. Wow, that's not good.
Judy says Ryan was treated with a host of drugs and therapies, yet nothing soothed her son. That is what led her to take an astonishing step and give her 12-year-old boy medical marijuana.
My first gut reaction was, oh my God, that seems really out there. That seems drastic. But I don't want to do all these antipsychotic medications anymore. They don't seem to be helping. And I thought to myself, what do I really have to lose?
Judy lives in California, one of 14 states where medical marijuana is legal, purchased with a doctor's okay at one of these dispensaries. Kids don't smoke the drug. It hardly resembles marijuana as it's infused into butter or bread or into a tincture that can be placed under their tongue.
It's like it just takes the edge off of his OCD. It's not like the OCD goes away when he has this medicine, but his ability to cope with it changes.
And what are those moments like for you then?
Heaven, because I get my little boy back.
Judy's not the only one trying medical marijuana on her kid. In fact, she says she got the idea from watching this Good Morning America story. Miko Hester Perez says her 11-year-old, Joey, who has autism, had shrunk to 46 pounds before receiving the drug.
I saved my son's life, and marijuana saved my son's life.
Severe autism so confounds modern medicine that any treatment might seem understandable. But giving pot to a preteen with OCD? Is that why they call it dope?
In what way are you not getting your son high?
Well, the tincture that I give him has a very low level amount of THC in it, and that's the psychoactive part of the plant.
Judy knew she'd be shocking her friends.
You know the culture we live in, though, right?
I know.
Just say no, gateway drug. What do their faces look like the first time you say you're doing what you're doing?
It's like this. Like they're processing it. Like, what? I think if they look at the whole picture and they see what has happened with my child over the years and how close we have come to losing him, literally. It's really just giving them medicine to treat a symptom.
But there are no double-blind studies, the gold standard of scientific tests, to have proven or even shown that marijuana does anything for kids with autism or OCD.
How young is too young to be using medicinal marijuana?
How young is too young to use aspirin? How young is too young to use penicillin?
A retired physician and professor at Harvard Medical School, Lester Grinspoon, wrote the book on marijuana, literally. In the 70s, his son Danny, who had cancer, used the drug to counter the pain of his chemotherapy before his death. Now, he hears from mothers like Miko and Judy, but even he can't say it'll work.
I can't guarantee it's going to do anything, but I can tell you it isn't going to harm him. It is remarkably non-toxic.
You understand how some people hear of a boy taking marijuana and they're going, that doesn't seem right.
It's because we have been brainwashed about this substance. There will come a time when people will recognize that this is a wonder drug of our times. It does so much in terms of relieving some of the symptoms which are very difficult for parents to deal with, let alone the child.
I think the medical marijuana might actually be making their symptoms worse. The medical marijuana might just kind of be sedating them and not really addressing the underlying issues.
Child psychiatrist Dr. Steven Sager at the ECHO Teen Substance Abuse Facility argues that this alternative treatment does present a serious risk for these kids.
With marijuana, there's clear problems that can come up with it, including concentration problems, anxiety, depression. I think with a child, you need to be ultra cautious.
You know who else doesn't think marijuana for kids is such a hot idea? 12-year-old Griffin.
Griffin, what was it like when you first heard that you might be taking medical marijuana?
It was very, very scary, and I didn't want to take it, and I kept telling my mom I don't want to.
Chris Cortez says her son's been diagnosed with ADHD and has trouble focusing in class.
Teachers are very frustrated with Griffin.
Very frustrated.
How do they express that frustration, Griffin?
Yelling. Lots and lots of yelling.
What's it like when you feel like a teacher has given up on you?
It makes you feel bad. It makes you feel like you're a really bad person.
It upsets me. It makes me want to cry.
When Griffin was first diagnosed, he was prescribed Ritalin, but Chris wouldn't give it to him. She says she'll feel more comfortable giving him medical marijuana because it's an organic substance.
I don't want him to take any kind of manufactured drugs, and I kind of went back and forth on it because I don't want people to be upset with me, but then I had to realize that it doesn't matter what other people think. It's my son's health that matters.
What do you hope medical marijuana will do for Griffin?
I hope it helps him to concentrate more so he can learn better in school.
That outcome might not mesh with our image of what young people using marijuana are like in school. But Chris looks forward to starting Griffin on a marijuana regimen before the beginning of the next school year, despite his concerns.
I reassured him that even if it wasn't medical marijuana and it was Ritalin or something else, that he would still be scared. No matter what it is, he's still going to be a little scared until he actually tries it.
As for Ryan, Judy is the first to say that medical marijuana hasn't cured her son.
It's just a piece of the puzzle. It's almost like it's a Band-Aid. When it's difficult to reason with him because he's so upset, that's tough. It's very difficult to see him like that. And that is why I turned to this alternative treatment.
As she's become an advocate for its use on kids, speaking to other families about the drug, Judy says she's also explored another side of marijuana with her son, the side we're more familiar with.
I don't want my son to be high, but he hasn't had a chance to feel euphoria for many, many years. He's lost all his friends, and so I want him to have a little bit of the THC. I really do. I want him to feel some of that euphoria.
Ole Miss is home to many things, including the only legally grown marijuana crop in our nation. And a new development there is creating quite a buzz tonight. Faculty and student researchers say they've created a new pain reliever in the form of a patch. Action News 5's Janice Broach joins us now with the story you'll see only on Fox.
This here, just touching, the smell is a wonderful smell.
Dr. Mahmoud El-Soli is a faculty member at the School of Pharmacy at Ole Miss. He and his team have been working inside this lab for nearly 7 years to find alternative uses for THC, the main psychoactive ingredient in marijuana.
The plant itself has a great potential for good medicines coming out of the cannabis plant, but certainly not in smoking of the drug.
You heard him. He is not a fan of legalizing pot, but he is a fan of his newest creation, a pot pain reliever in the form of a patch that is placed over the gum line in patients who have problems taking the drug in pill form.
In addition to pain, it will include things like reducing the intraocular pressure, and therefore would be good for glaucoma, would be good for alleviating the nausea and vomiting associated with chemotherapy, will also be good for appetite stimulation.
Formulas were first screened in rabbits, then pigs. Dr. El-Soli believes the right formula will lead to testing in humans.
So we're not really introducing anything strange to the body other than the THC itself. We're just having to make it so that we make it possible to be absorbed through the mucosa.
More than 77,000 samples were prepared for analysis on this project. Early tests show the patch can work for up to 10 hours.
Because of the way it's absorbed, it's almost like absorbed from the lungs, right? Like the smoke. When you smoke, it goes from the lungs to the whole entire body before going to the liver. Unlike the oral, it goes to the liver first and then goes to the rest of the body.
The patch grew out of earlier experiments Dr. El Soli says didn't go over so well. He first tried making a pot suppository.
Jay Leno was, had it on his show when we first came up with the product and say, that researcher at Ole Miss has developed a way to administer, marijuana by suppository. You know how he came up with this idea? They say, how? And he said, well, he was smoking a joint, and then he saw the cups and he went.
Janice Broach, Action News 5.
All right. Ole Miss has not used its outdoor marijuana field since the year 2007. Instead, everything is grown in a lab, which is under 24-hour surveillance by the DEA. Research on the pot.
Vote, victory over the enemy.
Hey, I like that.
Which is the unregistered voter in the state of California.
Oh, okay.
What we have to do is upgrade our standard of voting. We can send people to the moon, and we're sending satellites into outer space. I believe that our system of voting in this country is very antiquated, very old. It needs to be renewed and revised and updated. I think that the voting should be more important than Christmas.
Okay.
I think that we should spend a lot of money on educating the people. Look at it this way. The government is in favor of the United States public to vote. I feel that it's our duty to show them or to find a way to help the government find ways to help people vote. And I think with television, the telephone, computer optics, and satellite dishes and all this technology that we've got, we should be able to sit home and vote on all these important issues. And I'm sure the government wants everybody to vote. It's our constitutional right, and they stand behind it. I think that they should get behind us and help us to get out there and make voting a very important issue. It is important, even if you're not in favor of, say, the California Marijuana Initiative or the Hemp Initiative, that's fine. We would love for you to come out and speak your opinion. We want you out there voting. We want you to take an active part in this country. If you do, then I think this will solve the problem.
I want to thank you guys for watching. We're going to go out on another great song by Mr. John Coronet. We'll be back next week and help us restore hemp.
Yeah, restore hemp.
Another chapter as we turn the page. We exist within a Ukraine. I know that freedom's heard around the globe. Just where our future lies will nobody know. Oh, let's make the best of it now. 'Cause you never know when the sky will fall. Maybe the moon will reach the earth one day. We're not the same race that we used to be. Can't you see? Now the next time that you fall in